Hi everyone, in today's Card Making 101 video, I want to go over stamp positioners. Now the first one I want to talk about is a Stamp-A-Majig. Now this is the brand name of this positioner, however there are other brand names out there that are almost identical to this. This is just the one I have. So this comes with two pieces. You have a plastic piece with right angles on both sides, and it also comes with this plastic sheet. Now one side is very smooth and the other side has just a little bit of texture to it, and that is so you can stamp with both pigment and dye ink and wipe it away easily. Now you can see this plastic sheet fits right in those two right angles on this actual handle, and then it also has a nice foam backing on it so it doesn't slip around as easily on slick surfaces, but it also will move easily if you need it to. Now if you lose that plastic piece, like many of us do, you can use any other plastic piece you have on hand. Just make sure that it has a right angle on it. So use your paper trimmers to go ahead and cut your corners, and then you have another plastic piece you can use as well. So I want to show you how this thing works. I'm going to be using a sentiment stamp here, and I've got it loaded onto an acrylic block. This is a clear stamp. One benefit of this you will see later on that is different from my other positioner. You can use wood blocks with this as well. So any type of stamp you have will work with this positioner. I'm using dye ink, and I'm going to stamp on the textured side here, and I just line up that plastic piece with that handle, make sure it's right up in that right angle, and then I line up my clear acrylic block with the corners on that handle and stamp it down. Now I can go over with my plastic piece and I can position this exactly where I want it. I bring in my handle, line it up with my plastic piece, make sure the corner is in the right angle on the handle, and then I'll ink up my stamp again. Now I can lift away my hand and leave that positioner right where it is, and it's not going to go anywhere. I'll go ahead and ink up my stamp, and then when I flip my stamp over, I just want to make sure that my corner of my acrylic block is right in that right angle, and I'm going to stamp it down, and this will put the stamp exactly where I want it. Now this isn't very beneficial for your clear stamps for stamping it exactly where you want it, but for your wood block stamps it is awesome. Now another thing is, if you don't stamp correct and you leave your positioner right in that spot, you can go ahead and stamp again and get a nice darker crisp image. You can also line up your plastic sheeting, put your positioner back where you want it, and then stamp down again. If your positioner happens to move, you can go ahead and line it up again and stamp it again. Or you can do like I'm doing here, and you can do a shadow effect. So I'll line this up, and I'm going to offset it a little bit. So I'll offset it a little bit to the right and down a little bit. I'm going to ink up my stamp after I've put my handle right down in that right angle, and then I'll stamp my stamp down, making sure the acrylic block is lined up, and there is a really nice shadow effect. Now this would be awesome, not necessarily with this sentiment set, but a very large sentiment with two different colors. That would look really neat. Now to clean this up, you just need a baby wipe or a clean cloth and just wipe down your plastic sheet, and it's ready to go for another use. The ink comes off very easily. Now like I said before, this is great for wood block stamps. So I've got this wood block stamp. I've had it for a long time, but I always have a really hard time stamping this one. It doesn't ever want to stamp exactly perfect the first time. So I always need to double stamp this, and this is where my Stamp-A-Majig really helps me out. So I'll go ahead and line up my plastic sheet in that right angle again. And if you are right-handed or left-handed, the great thing about this positioner is you have right angles on both the right side and the left side of your handle. So it works for either way. Now I'll go ahead and stamp that down. I stamped onto the smooth side this time. And then I can line this up, look straight through that plastic sheeting, see where I want my stamp, and once I have it placed exactly where I want it on my cardstock, I'll bring in that handle, line it up with the corner on my sheeting, make sure it's tucked nice and tight in that right angle on my blue handle, and then I'll re-ink this stamp up again. Now I'm holding my positioner exactly where I had it. You can by all means remove your hand. I don't know why I kept mine on there, but it would make it a lot easier. but you want to hold it in place while you do bring your stamp over after you've inked it up. Go ahead and fit that corner of that stamp nice and snug in your handle, and then you can press down. Now when I lift this up, I'm going to lift straight up and away, and you can see it did not stamp perfect at all. So I'm going to re-ink this up. I'm keeping my hand on that positioner so it doesn't move at all, and I don't have to reposition with my sheet. And then I'll go ahead and stamp this down again, making sure those corners are lined up nice and tight in that right angle on the handle. Now if your positioner happened to move, that's okay. Just make sure you use your sheet, line it right back up, position your handle again, and you can stamp as many times as you need to. I went ahead and removed my handle this time because twice normally does it for this stamp, and once I lift it away, you can see I've got a really nice, crisp, clear image that's ready to be colored in. And like before, I'm just going to use my baby wipe to remove that ink on my plastic sheet. Now this is, again, a great positioner to have on hand. It's nice and quick and easy to use. It's very portable, and it can be used with your wood mount stamps if you prefer those stamps. Now the next positioner I want to talk about is the Misty. It is more expensive, quite a bit more expensive if I'm going to be honest, and I have the full-size version here. There's also a larger version, and there's also a mini version now, which is cheaper and it's perfect for card makers, but I like my original version. Now this comes with a nice foam backing, you can see, but also on the back when you open up your positioner from the box, you're going to have 2 magnets. Now that is particularly helpful because this inside is magnetic. So whenever you put your paper down, you can hold on to it with that magnets. There you can see it just pops right on there because that surface is magnetic. Now these magnets are super strong. They will pinch your fingers. They will snap and break if they snap together very quickly. A lot of people put washi tape around them. I don't have a problem with mine as of now. So if you have trouble picking them up, you can always put washi tape around the surface of the magnet, and that makes it easier to pull up. Now this also comes with a foam insert, so you can use your clear stamps with it, and then you can have this grid paper in there as well, which just helps you line up your cardstock. Now how this works is you put your paper right into the Misty and you put it in the bottom corner. Now you can use any corner you want. I'm using the one on the bottom right hand side. And then I'm just going to place my stamp exactly where I want it, close the lid, and pick up my stamp. Now, if you happen to move your paper or your stamp picks it up when you lift it up, as some stamps do, that's okay. Just tuck it right back into the corner, and it's always going to be in the same position. Now I've got my stamp on my lid on the left-hand side there, so I'm just going to ink it up. And the great thing about this is that surface that your stamp is on is acrylic. So anything you get on there, any paint, anything like that, it's going to come right off. So here you can see I put some ink on there just to show you that even when I press this down, that ink on the lid isn't going to get on my paper. So if I wasn't to stamp this perfect the first time, my stamp just happens to be a really good one. It stamped really well. So I'm going to go ahead and restamp it, and you can see that it lines up perfectly, so you can't even tell that I've restamped it. And then all I need to do is wipe down my surface with a baby wipe. Do make sure that it is alcohol free, because any alcohol will cause crazing in your lid on your Misty because it is acrylic. But now I can remove that stamp, and this is ready to be used again. Now your Misty can also be used with your cling stamps with the foam on the back. All you need to do is go ahead and remove that foam that comes in there and just place your paper straight on the inside surface. Now when you do that, you can also move this up and away. So if you have a background stamp and you want to stamp all the way across the cardstock, or you want the stamp hanging off the right side or the bottom, you can do that as well, and that's where the magnets come into play. Just move your paper up and away from the corner, line your stamp up, close the lid, have your magnets on the paper so it doesn't move, then you can ink up and stamp that right down. Now you can either just use it like I'm using it. You can put a scrap piece of paper in there if you want, but this is also plastic or acrylic inside, so I can just wipe off the extra ink. There you can see I've got a perfectly stamped little coffee cup there, and it's hanging off the right side and the bottom. Now, whenever the Misty was designed, she did an awesome job, I have to say, because you have rulers on the bottom, on the right hand side, and on the top. You've got grid lines inside the Misty, you've got the grid paper you can insert, and you also have grid lines on the front. So there you can see on my lid, it is all etched in with grid lines, which is just awesome. You can also flip this around and use this the opposite way. And if you've watched some of Sandy Allnock's video, she uses it in a completely kind of unique way where she uses all four sides of the Misty to stamp different little stamps that she's using in a scene. And it is, when I seen her do it, I was like, oh, that's a really great idea. So you can use opposite sides of your larger Misty while you're making cards. It speeds up the process. You can see this is a very thick tool. So you do want to be careful with it because it is acrylic. You don't want to drop it and break it, but it is put together very well. A lot of people had trouble with it cracking or crazing on the first ones that were manufactured. However, the newer ones don't have that problem at all. The shipping or the manufacturing has also been moved to China. These are now made in China. They used to be made in the United States. They are not, but I really don't see any quality concerns at all. And there you can see that etch grid line. I'll zoom you in on the lid, which helps you line up your sentiments so they're perfectly straight. The hinges on this are also acrylic. They're not metal, so you're not going to get rusting or anything like that, especially if you do a lot of mixed media and you're using a lot of water or paint. Everything's really a nice surface, so it's just going to clean off very easily and nothing's going to stay on there. Just make sure that you use your baby wipes that are alcohol free, or you use the special cleaner that they sell for this so you don't get that crazing in your lid or on your surface at all. So this is more expensive than your Stamp-A-Majig. However, it is very much worth the price in my opinion. It runs about $60. You can get the mini for $45, or if you're a scrapbooker, you can get the larger one for $100. Now, whenever I first seen the price on the Misty, I kind of thought it was a little bit high. However, once I got the actual tool and started using it, the amount of time this has saved me, the amount of cardstock it has saved me, it is so well worth the price. Christmas cards alone, it's going to save me so much time, and it is a really well thought out tool. So if you want more information on these two different stamp positioners, you can head over to my blog. The link is in the description box below, and there you can find links to the Misty as well as the Stamp-A-Majig. I hope you all found this video helpful and informative, and thank you guys so much for watching today. Happy crafting!